and they're on cooling racks. So after the first 10 minutes of taking them out of the oven, we put them, left them in the pan. Now they're on the cooling racks. They're pretty much really cold, like they've been sitting half hour maybe. So I just want to talk a little bit before we start the frosting. When you make cupcakes, you don't want to mix them too much because in flour there's gluten. And in gluten, it will make the cupcake really thick and dry because gluten's in bread and pasta and it bounds out. Also, when we took them out of the oven, we used oven mitts to protect ourselves because you never know. So with those cupcakes without the frosting, they last about anywhere from 3 to 5 days because after 5 days, they get really dry and stale flavored. So we should be good on talking about cupcakes now. Let's get to the preservatives of frosting. With frosting, you don't want to mix it too much, but you don't want to mix it too little because it's a grainy texture. Because confectionery sugar, no matter if it's this brand or any other brand, it has a grainy texture to it. And you don't want something that's you don't want a frosting that's too thick or too thin. So let's jump right into this. Cut this open. Be careful with your knife. So if you see, it's nice and thick, like there's no clumps in it. So let's start with the ingredients. For this frosting, we have a stick of softened butter, 8-ounce cream cheese softened, a 4th cup of blackberry jam. You can get it seedless, with seeds in it, it doesn't matter, whichever you prefer. But with me, I prefer seedless with the braces. We have the teaspoon of vanilla extract. We're going to use the same one, the baker's one from before. We're running a little bit low. And 3.5 cups of powdered sugar and a half a teaspoon of salt. We're going to use the same salt as before, nice fine salt. So let's jump right into this. We are going to add the butter, the cream cheese, and the blackberry jam. So here's the butter softened, and here's the cream cheese. The butter kind of melted a little bit, so let's say we're going to go with this one, nice and Christmassy, for the Christmas holidays. I'm going to pour it into this bowl. Just a little bit that was melted into there. I'm going to pick this out of there. This was my papa's favorite part of the cupcakes, the frosting. Depending on who made it, it was always, if it was me, it was the perfect type of frosting. If it was somebody else, it might be too thick or too thin. Just on how the person makes it. You want to get it all in there. Just scrape the sides. Next, we got the cream cheese. It wants to open. So the first time I made this frosting, I didn't make this recipe. I used actual blackberries, which we are using for toppings today, but I used actual blackberries, and it was good, just not my favorite, but I definitely like this one better. It's a little bit easier, and you get less powdered sugar than I used, so it's healthier too. So if you want to have a cheat day but still want to be healthy, this is definitely the recipe for you. Shake it out of there. Throw it in there. Squish that out. So you kind of just want to mix this together. And the cream cheese is still a little hard. You don't want it fully melted. Kind of just squish it down in there, like flatten it out. Mix it with the butter as best as your ability. Kind of just like that. Get it all kind of combined in. Next, we're gonna do the blackberry jam and the vanilla extract. So for these, it's not just one stick of butter, one container, or one slab of cream cheese. It's actual measurements. So let's start off with the blackberry jam. We got a 1/4 cup. So we are gonna pick up our 1/4 cup. I'm gonna open this up. I'm gonna use our knife. Kind of just mix it around in there. Just kind of pour it in there. And the texture of this is very thin. It's not green. It's not like the seeds are in it. So now we're going to take this out. Get it all in there. just like that. Put this in our dirty bowl. I'm gonna cover this up. So when you get blackberry jam or any jam in a store, it's not opened and it's on a shelf. It's not in the fridge. After you open it, you want to put it in the fridge. So that will go in the fridge. So you kind of just mix this in here. And you can start to see the cream cheese and the butter getting that red-black color. Just like that. Next, we'll add the vanilla extract. And I like to mix just the beginning, like the liquids together or the soft products together in the beginning with the spatula. So next, we'll add a teaspoon. Kind of gotten good at the measurements. Then we'll just mix that in there. And we're gonna start mixing it with a hand mixer. So we'll get that plugged in. So now we have that one mixed a little bit. By hand, we're gonna grab the stuff to the attachments to put in the mixer. So I know not everybody has a KitchenAid or one of those big table countertop mixers. Personally, I like the little hand mixers. So you're gonna start off in a low speed. Just to combine it a little bit more. Next, you want to grab your spatula again, get all of this off the sides. Push it all down into the center. You want this well combined before you start adding anything else into it. Just like that. So next, we are going to add the 3.5 cups of powdered sugar. So here I have a 2 and I have a 1.5. Just going to tear this open a little bit more. Like my mom always says, you're never having fun if you're not dirty or if it's not a mess. I don't know how well she believes in that, but I yelled at when I made a mess. For example. So now I kind of just throw that in there. And you kind of just like want to mix it a little bit. Not like that. Just mixing it a little bit so it's folding it in there. So it's not going to be a big explosion when you mix it with the hand mixer. Like that. And then we're going to do the 1/2 teaspoon of salt. It says a dash on the recipe, but I had to put a number on it for you guys that don't know a dash. Because a dash is different between anything. So you kind of just mix all that in there just like that. Don't do what I did. Kind of difficult when you're working with powdered sugar. So next you're going to clean that off. I'm going to put the blender. Don't go from 1 to 6 like that. Just kind of go slow. Work it around very slowly. See how it starts to come together. I like to rise it up a little bit to get it all off, and then shut it off. Next, we'll go like this, get it all off the sides again, and fold it in. So like I said with the gluten, powdered sugar and all of these ingredients don't have gluten in it. So you can fold it in however much you want. But honestly, you don't want to fold it in too much because you will get that really thin texture to it. A very thin texture. And you don't want that. You want a nice thick frosting for those very good, delicious cupcakes. Just fold it in there. Get all of this off your spatula. Nice and healthy, it looks delicious too. Get all that back in there. You're gonna start it up one more time. Once it gets clumpy, you're gonna turn it up. And for me, that's not enough purple. I don't think that there's not enough blackberry in there. So what we'll do is we'll take our knife and just a little bit more in there. Just a little dab. And this is all optional. If you think that's enough blackberry jam for you, then do that. But honestly, for me, it's not. So we'll just mix that back in there. Okay, now that's all set. Our frosting is prepared and it's all mixed in. It's a nice thin but thick texture. If it was too thin, it would fall right off. But see how it's dripping? Like it's kind of hanging down if you go like that. And now it drops, but if you have it just like this, it's not dropping. It's not like a drip of like rain. It's kind of going down. So you want just that. So there's two ways you can do this. You can leave it in a bowl, or you can put it in a piping bag or a Ziploc bag if you don't have one. And you can put it in the fridge for about an hour, and then we'll come back and frost them. Or you can leave it in the bowl and then transfer it, or you can use one of these frosting spatulas or an offset spatula, just like this. It's offset because it's not flat. You can frost in it just like this instead of having your hand on the cake. You can have it above it. So you can have either a normal spatula like this or one like this to frost in them. However you want to do it, it's up to you. I am going to use a piping bag. You can have a tip or you cannot. So we're going to put this in the fridge and let it cool half hour, 45 minutes to an hour, and we'll be back with frosting them.